So in this video, we're going to talk about fulfillment. And fulfillment is one of the most important things to me because that's where you get your happiness from. What's the point of living if you're not happy and you don't have joy, and you don't have fulfillment in your life? Fulfillment is being able to be filled up with something that's really making you happy, driving you, something that's giving you passion.
And it looks different for everybody. I
Yes.
mean, and the cool thing about fulfillment and pursuing things that you're interested in is it changes from when you were younger. You might have had things that were really fulfilling to you that obviously changed through the course of your life. So if you're in a place right now where you're like, well, I don't know what's fulfilling to me, I don't know what makes me happy, that's completely okay because when you're focused on getting high and drinking all the time, that becomes your fulfillment, and we all know how that ends. So, this is to think about what does drive you, what things can you possibly be interested in, and how to obtain that.
Yeah, why this is important because the fact of the matter is 99% true. Happy people don't do drugs. If you're fully fulfilled and you don't have a void in your heart that you're trying to fill with drugs and sex and gambling and all of these things, then you're truly fulfilled and you're not doing drugs. So if you try to create a life that's going to be filled with fulfillment, chances are you're not going to do drugs. Now, although you're going to have to find what makes you fulfilled, like Connor said earlier, it changes throughout your life. The things that made me happy when I was doing drugs do not make me happy anymore. I went from an extrovert to an introvert real quick. The things that I found fulfilling, but we're going to go on this journey together and really figure out what makes you happy and what is going to fill the cracks of your day. Because when you're sad and blue and you're not feeling well is the best time when drugs are going to creep back into your life. They say the idle mind is a devil's playground. Well, if you're unfulfilled as well, the devil's going to be on your shoulder saying, well, you know how we could do this, huh? You know how we could take care of this with some synthetic pleasure and fulfillment, which
Instant
it's
gratification.
instant gratification and is never as good as it seems when it's promised. I've never did a drug or did something and it was better than what I expected. The anticipation of the feeling is usually 10 times better than the actual feeling. And that's what we really have to understand. A huge part of fulfillment is balance. Having balance in your life. They say, for instance, they say true wealth isn't all about money. Because if you have all the money in the world and all the health in the world, but you don't have love, what kind of life do you have?
Or time.
Yeah,
If you're constantly on the go and you don't have the time
to
to take a
enjoy it.
second to yourself.
It's you have to have a balance of things. You have to be able to have really good health, have love in your life, have time to enjoy yourself, and have financial freedom. Balance is the key to everything. It's the key to fulfillment. Like I've said in other videos, I have clients of all walks of life, and you know, um, some of them have all the love in the world, but they ain't got a dollar to their name, and they're not fulfilled. And then I have clients that are multi millionaires, and they have all this money, but their family's falling apart, or their health is in decline, and they're just as miserable as the next person. So what we're going to try to do in this section is really try to find your balance of what that looks like.
Yeah, and something that I think a lot of people try to chase to have fulfillment is materialistic gains, money. I mean, listen, this is how we think as a society that we need these things, which you kind of touched on just a minute ago. We need these other things in our life to essentially fill a void, which is what is really going on. But I like to use this as an example. You could have all the money in the world, right? You could be on a vacation. You could own your own island. You could have all the food at your disposal, and have all these things that are going great on the surface. But if one small thing were a little obstacle in the way. Let's say you had a sore throat, which was really terrible. You say you had a really bad sore throat while you were on vacation. You had all the money in the world and everything that you wanted. You wouldn't be able to enjoy anything that's going on. You would just be focused on the sore throat. So our health, just having our health and just having the opportunity to get into recovery and become fulfilled. Again, it's thinking back to like gratitude, which we talk a little bit about in relapse prevention and stuff like that. But the idea of being fulfilled is also having a perspective where you're looking at the things that are going well in your life too. It's changing your perspective.
So a big part of fulfillment is making sure that your mental and emotional health is in check. This is very important because you may set up this amazing life, but if you're not, if your ducks aren't aligned in your mind and in your emotions and your heart, you can't really enjoy anything. A lot of people that go through addiction also suffer from anxiety and depression and all of these different things, and these things that need to be addressed for you to live a life. I mean, how easy is it to live a fulfilling life if you have PTSD and every time you step out of your house you have an anxiety attack? But see, these are things that need to be addressed, and you need to handle them properly, and possibly a doctor or a supplement. And we spoke about the supplements that are really, really powerful to get your mind and your brain in the proper health for optimal performance. And it's all intertwined with one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And the emotional part of it for me, I could tell myself happy thoughts, and things be going great in my life on the surface. But if I didn't address some things that I was still harping on from the past, no amount of things that were going on in my life were going to make me feel happy and fulfilled. A person that is living with anger and resentment and living with these feelings of things that are no longer in their control, you're a slave to your own mind, because you can't possibly accept the things into your life with a grateful attitude if you're constantly harping on the negatives from the past. So there might be some scenarios where you just mentioned PTSD, that people need to address. And again, it's working with a therapist. You might need to go to a doctor. You might need to check in with an AA group and work on the 12 steps, whatever the case may be. But there needs to be a certain amount of work done to clear your side of the street to make sure that you're open to having a fulfilling life.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, about the 6 human needs. This is very, very important to understand your hierarchy. I mean, you have certainty, variety, significance, loving connection, growth, and contribution. And knowing which ones are most important to you can help you really fulfill, because they are the human needs and they are going to give you fulfillment. And if you can create a life that satisfies these needs, your life will automatically have some kind of fulfillment in it, intrinsically. And that's really powerful.
Something that can really help you is to focus on what are your goals. And if you don't know, that's okay. But what are the personal things that you would find joy in? You know, for me, when I first got clean, luckily enough for me, I still really cared about sports. As a young kid growing up, I always loved sports. I'm a huge Met fan. Giants, Knicks, New York sports. And when I was getting sober, I dove right back into that. I was watching the Knicks every time they played. I was playing basketball, and I was just kind of staying active with what I enjoyed. Now, I don't know if in the past you've liked to paint, you've been artistic, whatever the case may be, whatever you're into, cars, repairing things, building things. You got to think about doing a little bit of work and having personal goals for what are the things that you like. Now, for instance, for me, a personal goal of mine is I want Mets season tickets because I absolutely love the Mets, and that's something that would bring me joy and happiness because I love going to Mets games. You know, it's not something that I even have to think about. It's just something that I'm I'm saying with a smile on my face, because just that alone, it brings me to a good spot. So you need to think about what type of goals do you have for yourself as far as your passions, things that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, and to touch up on that is there's a lot of fulfillment in the process of going after your goals, attaining them. Because when you do idolize just your goal, um, once you get there, you're going to get some joy and fulfillment. But there's always going to be the next goal,
Yeah,
and there's
it's
always
never
going to be the
forever.
next goal.
It's
It's a never forever thing. So you have to really find you have to find fulfillment in the process, and that's why it's making your whole life collectively fulfilled. Because you can have intermittent feelings of fulfillment through goals and through experiences and through money and all these things, but these are fleeting. You have to surround yourself in all aspects.
This is why you celebrate the wins too,
Yes,
along the way.
big time.
You have to
Yeah,
celebrate
you have to
the
celebrate.
little wins because they're a big deal.
Yeah, 100%. A big thing that I find that really, really sets people into a fulfilling life is the people that they're around, their social circles. I mean, who do you hang out with? Because I'll tell you who you are if you show me your 5 friends. Those 5 people you hang out with the most is who you become. So if you're around negative Nancy's and Nicks, chances are you're not going to have a happy life. It's going to be a lot of complaining. It's going to be a lot of things that are just not bringing happiness in your life.
Drama filled.
Yeah.
What other people are doing.
Yeah, so you got to be aware of all of your surroundings. A big thing about living this good life is creating it. I mean, this goes down to the people that you hang out with, to the places that you go, to the experiences that you do, the activities that you go through. All of these things all incorporate into your life, and whether you're going to enjoy it or you're not going to enjoy it. And you have to really take an inventory of these things and be present and present-minded when choosing what you're going to do and who you're going to be around and what you're trying to achieve. So the one thing that I struggled with for a long time was I always wanted to help so many people. And I would pour into other people all the time, and that was fulfilling for me. But like we talked about balance, after a while you pour into so many people, you're empty. You got nothing to pour into anybody anymore. And you're drained emotionally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and you're not the same person anymore. You have to fill your cup up first before you start filling up others. And you'll be more effective at it. If you're happy and fulfilled in all of these different aspects, you will be a so much more effective human being in life. So learn to find this fulfillment in life.
One book that I really, really like, it changed my life, and it was a huge part of my journey on self-developing and understanding why I do certain things, is the book called The Four Agreements. We'll have a link for that, and it's by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the concept of the book, it's a very short book. The concept is if you live your life among these 4 simple agreements, they're simple, not easy, 2 different things. Sometimes the process of doing something is very simple, but it's not easy to do. And so this book is a demonstration of that. And the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. And what that means is to, like we've talked about before, is to be honest, be your authentic self. Because when you start to live lies and you start to verbalize things that aren't your truth, you can't really sleep. You can't really sleep at night knowing that you're being your authentic self, and you're wearing a bunch of masks, interacting with people, and you're not being true to yourself. And when you're not being true to yourself, you're basically rejecting yourself, in a nutshell. Think about it. The only reason why you're not authentic with anybody, or me, or anybody, not just you personally, but the reason why people are not authentic and aren't impeccable with their word is because they are afraid of judgment.
Yes.
And it comes down to fear. That's it. It's as simple as that. There is no other reason why you shouldn't be authentic with your word, impeccable with your word. So this is a simple concept, not an easy one, because we've all been in scenarios where fear creeps in and And it's a little bit easier to not be impeccable with our word.
Well, the second one is very important. It's don't assume. You know how many times I drove myself freaking crazy assuming that somebody meant something, or through a text that I read it wrong, and I thought they were flipping me off, or whatever the case may be, or my girl was cheating, whatever it might have been.
Texting was created for assuming.
Texting was created for assuming things. You know what happens when you assume? You make an arse out of you and me, and it's facts, because it really just destroys all communication. Be very bold, be honest, and ask, what did you mean by that? Don't assume, because it really puts you in a bad place most of the time. I know for me personally, emotionally, it wrecked me so many different times from me assuming. I'm sitting here sweating, not understanding whether it be a business negotiation or a girlfriend, or thinking somebody's deceiving me or being dishonest. Meanwhile, I'm just assuming. I could have just asked, and it had my stomach in knots.
Yeah, it's like when you start to assume one thing, you start at point A, and then you assume one thing, and then it leads to B, and then you assume off of that assumption, and it leads to C, D, and by the time you know it, what you started with is not what you end up with. And you have this dialogue. It literally, it takes energy out of you, because you're having this inner dialogue. I know I can speak for myself. I've done this many, many times. And we have this inner dialogue that is literally draining. And it takes us also away from the present moment. We can't be happy and content with where we are, because we're making all of these assumptions in our head. And number 3, which is in my opinion probably the most difficult one, is to don't take things personally. And listen, at the end of the day, we only have our own lives to live, and what this means is we have our own ego. And a lot of times, I'll speak for myself, I don't think of other people's perspective. So sometimes things happen in our day that we end up taking personally, which it's not, because everybody has their own perspective. So this is a really hard thing to grasp, especially if things happen in our lives with people that we care about, right? What happens is we develop relationships with people, we get to know individuals or even strangers. We develop these expectations of what people need to do, or how they need to act, or how we feel we deserve to be treated. And when we have expectations and they're not met, it sets up resentment and anger and things that will make us take things personally and will fuel our ego. And the idea of recovery and successfully developing ourselves in recovery is living with humility. Now, this is not easy. I'm not saying it's an easy task to always remember to not take things personally, but the truth of the matter is that people do have their own perspectives, and you can't always have expectations of other people, because they're living their own lives. And so I highly recommend going through this chapter a few times in the book. It's a really important topic.
And last but not least, number 4, do your best. Because the fact of the matter is, that's all you could do. You have to understand that if you give it your absolute best, there's nothing to feel bad about. There's nothing that you feel shame and guilty about. You gave it your all, and that's the best possible outcome that it could have ever been. So you should be proud of that.
And there's a saying that I actually really like, and it's you're not responsible for the outcome, you're just responsible for the effort.
Yeah.
And if you break that down into anything, it doesn't matter if it's schoolwork, your job, whatever the case may be, if you know you're putting in 100% of your effort and you're doing your absolute best, then there's nothing for you to regret. There's nothing for you to feel bad about, because the results are going to be what they're going to be.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that.
Yeah. So one of the activities that I want you guys to do to figure out fulfillment, and this is really powerful, like I said, simple, but very powerful. One is, I'd like you to make a bucket list of all the things that you want to do in your life. These can be as far as hitting some kind of goal in the gym, or going to Niagara Falls, or going to Bali, which is one of my bucket list dreams. But make a bucket list of all the things that would really bring you happiness and joy, that if you accomplish them, you'd be pretty amazed by. And then make a list of all the things that you're grateful for. And this is powerful. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. Make a list of all the things that you're grateful for, the people that you're grateful for, the activities that you're grateful for, the experiences that you're grateful for, the skills that you're grateful for. Now you have an arsenal of things that bring you fulfillment in each and every section of your life. You know the people that bring you fulfillment. You have the experience that bring you fulfillment. You have the activities that bring you fulfillment. You have the goals that bring you fulfillment. And anytime that you're feeling a little blue or sad or whatever the case may be, or just a little empty, whip out that list and categorize them in those specific functions. Be like, man, I really miss having somebody cool around me. Who's my list of awesome people? Pull out the list and go call one of those people up and meet up with them or have a conversation with them. Or if you're feeling a little bored and you're like, what makes me happy? Oh, I like to fish. Let's go out and fish today. Or I want to go climb Mount Everest. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever it might be, you have a resource list to help you find your fulfillment and kickstart your day and your moment. Because what do they say? Move a muscle.
Move a muscle, change a thought.
Yeah. And you might be all in the doldrums, and you move a muscle, and you look in that list and you find something, and you take action to something that actually makes you happy. It might change your whole entire day.
Yeah, and to touch on that, the gratitude list, something that we talk about in organization and our routine, our structure, is starting your day off with a gratitude list. It could be a very small. 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. It's a great way to start your day, to already programming your mind into thinking about the things that are happening for you. Life is happening for you. It's not happening to you. So making a gratitude list in the morning can be very, very beneficial.
Yes. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is some powerful stuff. And really, you need to figure out what the things in your life that fulfill you. Because it's different than me. But if once you understand what they are, they're easier to achieve and attain.